And let's turn the WhatsApp off as we don't need that. So welcome and thank you so much for chatting to me or to Darklight. We've both been following your work for quite some time now, and I remember posting one of your pictures on Instagram actually a long time ago and just being kind of blown away. So a little bit starstruck to have you on board, really.
Thank you so much. No, it's an honor. It's an honor, and I'm very happy to be part of the Darklight family.
Thanks. So I just wanted to have a bit of a chat with you about your work because I think it's beautiful and it's fascinating. And from sort of conversations with you before, the sort of stories behind why you create the images you do and how you go about shooting them is really interesting. So I guess my first question would be, where did your love for creating imagery come from?
I think it was very early on. I don't remember a time when I wasn't making something. So whether it was images, whether it was things out of boxes, you know, my parents used to bring me back the boxes from the supermarket after doing the shopping, and I'd end up constructing something. So I was always, you know, drawing something, making something. It didn't matter. I was just always on the go. So that kind of has been with me pretty much forever. I don't remember a time when I wasn't involved in that process in some way. But, you know, when I was at school, I used to love, I mean, the thing with the paintings, when I'd get bored in class and I'd, you know, make an excuse and decide to go off to the loo, you know, I would take the long route because there were these paintings that were, you know, up and down the stairways of the corridors. So I would take a very long route basically to go to the toilet and then, you know, kind of get lost in the paintings. And it was a way of escaping. You know, it was a way of escaping just
the boredom of school,
the boredom, everything, and kind of disappearing off for a while.
Nice. And what were the paintings of? Were they impressive paintings, or
they were basically copies of old masters? So it was, you know, the school's attempt at, you know, decorating their hallway with these fakes, you know. So yeah.
Do you think that influenced your work?
Yeah, I think so, because I think coming, you know, you get older and you pick up things and you go to galleries and you start looking and you then make the correlation and you go, oh, this is where this came from. You join the dots in some way. But I think that was kind of very early on, you know, that initial, but, you know, I didn't know what anything was.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So because your works, especially your wave works, are quite painterly. I mean, they've definitely got a kind of Renaissance-esqueness about them. The kind of the drama and the colors are just phenomenal. Would you call yourself a photographer predominantly or an artist?
That's a really good question. I'd probably go for both. And probably more, you know, it's this thing about identities. I've never really been good at fitting in a box, you know, and I think that comes back to my heritage. You know, I'm half Yemeni, half Greek, British born. So this thing of always, you know, having to try and fit in a box, I never really did. So the having to fit into either a photographer or artist or something else is probably, you know, multiple identities.
Is it sort of your way, of almost rebelling a little bit and being like, you can't cage me, you can't tell me what I am. I'm just going to do what I want to do.
Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, and a lot of that comes from, you know, not having formal training. So if you don't know where the boundaries are or you don't know the rules, then you're kind of making them yourself. And there's a lot of experimentation in that and a freedom in it. And I think that's a place where I like to exist. You know, not feeling the confines of something. Also that, you know, it's very challenging to be in a space where it's like, well, what are you? You know, and I've always been asked that, you know, but where are you really from? You know, so it kind of, it's that thing about being pigeonholed or being, you know, oh, I must be only one thing when I've never really been one thing. And as I've got older, you become more comfortable with actually being maybe on the periphery in some way. Through that, or being able to be everywhere, you know. Depends on, you know, how which day you wake up and how you feel.
Of course, yeah. And do you, with your wave work, was that something you kind of planned? How did shooting those waves come about?
Oh, that's it was quite funny actually. There was no plan to shoot the waves. New Wave Order came after I'd worked on The Allure of Otherness, and the two series happened in quite different ways. I got basically, I returned back to kind of the area where I grew up back in 2015, 16, was spending more time and wanted to revisit the places I visited as a child, and I wanted to see how place had shaped my identity, like how much had where I grew up influenced who I was and who I'd become and who I was becoming, where were these links? So I ended up back on the North Kent coast. There was, there's all sorts of references there anyway, but it was that whole thing of, I'm on the sea, I'm here, where do I go with it now? And it was really a bit of an unknown, because I started sea swimming then in 2018 after I did a trip to Hawaii. I accidentally ended up in Hawaii. It was meant to be in Montana. I didn't get on the wrong flight, but the trip fell through to Montana, and then I had to book somewhere else to go, and I thought I'll end up there. And then out of that, I started taking some pictures of waves, because it was a big wave season. It was in January. I came back again. I hadn't edited them. I didn't really think too much about it. It was a couple of months later, and then that kind of linked into that. Then I came back again, started coming back to the coast again. So there was this thing of this reoccurring returning to place. There was something here that was part of me about where I grew up, but also what could I do with it? What could I do with it? And this thing of coming back to the sea. I started sea swimming in 2018. I was thinking, right, I'm in the sea now, so I'm going to make friends with the sea. And coming back out, then later in 2018 into 19, just what was going on politically across the world, frustration growing, picking up on that, and out of that I ended up. It was basically one day I was pretty fed up. I'd gone to the North Kent coast. I was standing behind the Turner Contemporary, raging just because I was just fed up. And I was thinking, I didn't know really where to go after I shot The Allure of Otherness. It was kind of, I'd shot quite a few images for it, and I kind of knew the shape of it. But I was thinking about what was next, what was going to creatively come next. And I didn't know. I kept coming back to the sea, and I was standing by the edge, and this wave came, and I was thinking about all these things and kind of where I was in life and all of this stuff. And this wave literally came over, I was holding my camera, and hit me on the head. So I was drenched, and my instant thing was, and it was so kind of disarming, it really took my breath away, because it was like being dunked in water in a bath. And I looked to see whether anybody saw, that I'd got absolutely soaked. And of course there was somebody there. And then I started to laugh, because I was thinking, actually, what is going to stop, or what is going to actually stop all of this bubbling cauldron of discontent? What would stop it? And I was thinking, it's nature. Nature is going to come along, and I didn't know what form it was going to take, but it was that thing about it stopped me in my tracks. And I remember turning away and thinking, it was post-referendum, there was Brexit, Trump, this, and I thought, okay, this is what's going to happen, or that's the only thing I could think of at that time. And so I turning away, and I was thinking, right, okay, New Wave Order, which is a play on New World Order. And so I had the title before I'd shot anything, and I remember walking away and thinking, okay, well, the next time there's a big storm, I'm going to go out and I'll see what happens. But the thing of the process around it came much later in terms of it looking painterly, because it didn't really happen until I started working on editing the images. And then from that's how that came about.
I really love that. I love that nature literally boshed you on the head.
Yeah, it was like it was a complete,
like it landed on you.
Yes. Yeah, it did. And it was like that. it was instant. It was instant. And I started to laugh because I thought, okay, this is, yeah, thank you. You know, that was it. It just literally, it was like that epiphany moment, you know.
The waves found you. You just
yeah. They really did. So I'm eternally grateful, you know, for the wave on the head. But yeah.
So I mean, the two things you shoot most are waves and also horses. And I know you obviously have a huge passion for horses. So tell me, was that just a really natural thing for you to start shooting? Were you shooting horses before the waves? Or did you kind of think, actually, I'm spending so much time around horses and this is something I want to sort of document?
I think I've always taken photos of them. I mean, the whole of the thing of my introduction really to photography in any serious way was I ended up critically ill in 2016, early 2016. So it was really, you know, kind of a way out of that and a focus to get me out of quite a dark place. Yeah. So although I'd always taken photos, it was never really with the intent. And the thing with the horses, it was very much about, there was this period of healing, you know, afterwards, and it involved a lot of me, because I didn't have a lot of energy, you know. I came out of hospital in a wheelchair and sitting in a field or laying in a field. So it was a very meditative process. And obviously the relationship with the horses, you know, I couldn't really go and lay in a field without horses I didn't know. And so there's the element of trust and intimacy of that relationship. And, you know, I'm not shooting far away from them. I'm really up close, and you can only really do that from a position of trust and knowing, you know, with Jeeves, you know, bless him, you know, I'm on his hindquarters most of the time, you know, hand comes up and I'm touching him, and he, you know, he's very good. He stands there and he comes and he checks, he turns around, he's like, are you done yet? You know, so the relationship is hugely important.
Yeah, I find it sort of fascinating because there's so much energy in your wave pictures. It's just, they're phenomenal. And there's completely the opposite, this total kind of calm with all your photographs of horses. There's just this kind of real serene, and you can feel that trust. It's really beautiful. You know, you can feel your relationship with the horses and this sort of total calmness that comes with the images. And I love that, bizarrely, I think they look really beautiful together. You know, the horses and the waves sit so well next to each other, although they create this totally different kind of energy.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm glad you see that.
I do. So I think we know that you're inspired by the horses, by the waves. Is there a person or anything else that really kind of inspires your work?
Oh, I think probably two influences that have been for over 20 years now, and this was very much my introduction to them, was Barbara Hepworth and Isamu Noguchi. So, and that's stayed. So that really hasn't shifted. So I think it's a thing of form, the way ideas are explored, and I think their work is mind-blowing.
Amazing. Well, I can see you have a sculpture behind.
Yes. Sculpture number one. Yes.
That's your sculpture, right?
Yeah. I made it at the beginning of this year. So yeah, it was
very cool. That's amazing.
Thank you.
What a talented lady.
Trying different things, yes. Trying different things.